Καλησπέρα. Ονομάζομαι Βίκη Πορφυρίδου, είμαι υπεύθυνη του Τμήματος Επιμέλειας των Εκδόσεων Βακχικών και με μεγάλη χαρά σας καλωσορίζω στην παρουσίαση δύο βιβλίων μας που κυκλοφορούν από τον εκδοτικό μας οίκο και έχουν τιμηθεί με το Βραβείο Λογοτεχνίας της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης. Κοντά μου έχω την τιμή να βρίσκονται οι συγγραφείς τους, η κυρία Λίντια Ντίμκοφσκα από τη Βόρεια Μακεδονία, η οποία θα μας παρουσιάσει το μυθιστόρημά της «Μία ακόμα ζωή», αλλά και το επόμενο μυθιστόρημα που είναι στα σκαριά, στο στάδιο της μετάφρασης αυτή την περίοδο. Και η κυρία Ρακέλ Μαρτίνεθ Γκόμεθ από την Ισπανία, με την οποία θα μιλήσουμε για το μυθιστόρημά της «Σκιές του μονόκερου» και το επόμενο που επίσης βρίσκεται στο στάδιο της μετάφρασης. Λίντια, Ρακέλ, καλώς ήρθατε. Welcome to Θεσσαλονίκη. Θα ξεκινήσω, Λίντια, με εσένα. I'll start with you. Κάνοντας μία μικρή παρουσίαση στο κοινό. Η Λίντια Ντίμκοφσκα γεννήθηκε το 1971 στη Βόρεια Μακεδονία, ενώ ζει σήμερα στη Σλοβενία. Είναι ποιήτρια, συγγραφέας και μεταφράστρια. Έχει εκδώσει 7 ποιητικές συλλογές, 5 μυθιστορήματα και μία συλλογή διηγημάτων. Τα βιβλία της έχουν μεταφραστεί σε 15 γλώσσες και για το έργο της έχει λάβει πολυάριθμα βραβεία, μεταξύ των οποίων το Κρατικό Βραβείο Ποίησης και 2 φορές το Κρατικό Βραβείο Λογοτεχνίας της Βόρειας Μακεδονίας. Και το βραβείο φυσικά Λογοτεχνίας της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης για το βιβλίο για το οποίο θα μιλήσουμε σήμερα. Το μυθιστόρημά της αυτό είναι το πρώτο έργο της που μεταφράστηκε στα ελληνικά και κυκλοφορεί από τις εκδόσεις Βακχικών, και για το επόμενο βιβλίο της θα έχουμε την ευκαιρία να μιλήσουμε στη συνέχεια. So, Lydia, your book travels us to Skopje. It's the story of Siamese twins, Zlatla and Sebra. How did you approach portraying this unique bond? And would you like to tell us a bit about the metaphor, the symbolism lying in between?
Hello to everybody. I wanted actually to tell a story about my generation. It is the generation born in 70s. So we always thought and believed that the war is very far from us and we will never live in a time of war. The war was only date from manuals, from books, from novels, but not something real. But my generation actually caught the war in ex-Yugoslavia. The boys from my generation were the last soldiers in the Yugoslav National Army. So they were all very traumatized, and when they came back and they actually left the fields of battles, they were very traumatized, and actually my generation coped with a new, very difficult situation. With the situation of separation of a big country, of 6 republics, where we live as brothers and sisters, and so on. And this generation born in 70s actually grew up mostly in working class neighbors. We had all similar wish and needs. So I wanted actually to tell a story about my generation, and because of that I selected twins with conjoined heads, just to problemize some things of their life, of their childhood, youth, and to tell a linear story. So the novel begins in 1984, and it ends in 2012. It is a long period, and in this long period of time, there were many historical events, not only in ex-Yugoslavia, but also in Europe. The wall of Berlin fell, and so on. Many things happened, and many things changed. So I wanted, through the story of Zlata and Srebra, to tell the story of the reality of our small world. It was quite difficult actually to approach them as bodies because they have conjoined heads, and it is very difficult to imagine them in a real space, you know, to see how do they sleep, how do they eat, what do they do, how do they walk, how, you know, how do they go to toilet and so on. So it was very difficult to imagine. So because of that, I very much researched, and also I drew them a lot just to see, you know, you cannot say in one situation their left hands touched because it is impossible, you know. But when I wrote the story, I didn't think actually of the break of Yugoslavia. This was a metaphor that came after when the readers and critics read the novel. They immediately caught the idea that, this is a novel for two girls who want to separate each other, but this is the same with the republics in ex-Yugoslavia. And I realized actually that in my subconscious feeling, I actually wrote the story also of these republics in ex-Yugoslavia. So the novel is a little bit political, it is quite historical, but first of all, it is a Bildungsroman. It is a novel for about two girls who grew up and want to separate each other, and all these problems around them in their life and how they cope with the situation. And after that, they went to operation to London, and one of them died. Just a normal life of abnormal situation in a life of two twins who have conjoined heads.
Does it mean something that the one of them dies in the end? Does the old world die? What is that about?
One of them dies, and the other one is the girl who tells the story. Tells the story of their life before the death of her sister, of their wish, of their problems with parents, with neighbors, with school, with the world in general. Because, you know, in a socialist time especially, nobody wanted to see such creatures, you know. Yeah. So especially probably in Balkans, it was very awful, or I don't know, very frightened to see persons who are not normal in the base of our standards, of our criteriums. So of course in that difficult times they had difficult childhood, and it was a shame for a family to have such daughters. Because the family was very working class, I mean, with the backgrounds, and very dysfunctional family. So these girls didn't have any support in the family and in the society. So finally they found money and went to London to separate, but unfortunately one dies. And of course, when you want so much to separate from somebody else, there is a victim somehow in the situation. At least one of them is victim. I think that in the case of Srebra and Zlata, both are victims. Even if one of them dies, Srebra, Zlata, who remains, actually never again feels okay, because she misses now all the time her sister, her head, and she also feels guilty that she survived and her sister didn't survive. So it is very similar in a way with the republics in ex-Yugoslavia. For example, North Macedonia didn't have anything with the war in ex-Yugoslavia, except, of course, refugees. We had many refugees from Bosnia and Herzegovina, but we didn't have anything to do with the war. In Slovenia, the war was only 10 days. But Bosnia was the biggest victim. But of course, everyone felt as a victim of this separation, you know. It is probably in the mentality of the people and also of the society. Even if you are at the end pleased with your choice, you always feel that maybe it could happen in a good way, not in a bloody way. Because the idea of separation of Yugoslavia was a normal idea, you know, a good idea. But the realization was very, very awful, with so many victims, with a lot of blood. And of course, in this chirurgical separation of Zlata and Srebra was also blood.
What message or emotions do you hope readers take away from One More Life, especially regarding the complexities of human connection and individuality?
My novel doesn't have a happy end, because I don't really believe in happy ends in literature. If you have a happy end, better not to read that book. But it has an open end. Because now, at the end, Zlata has two daughters who are also twins, but they don't have conjoined heads. So before them is a future, maybe good, maybe not. And everything actually begins and ends with this game that is on my cover page on the Macedonian edition. It is a game that little girls or teenagers play. And it is connected with their future, whom they will marry, how many children they will have, what city they will live, if they will be rich or poor. So in a tragic and ironical way, some things of this game actually is realized, you know, in the life of Srebra, Zlata, and their friend Rose, who dies very, very early.
We used to have such a game here, you know. Has anyone told you
Probably it is
that?
very
when I was a
volcanic.
little girl, we had that game here.
And what happened in your life after that?
I don't remember, to tell you the truth, but I remember the game. How many
Okay.
kids you'll have, and who you will marry, and where you will be living. We had that.
Yes. I know that readers always recognize themselves actually. In also other many countries, this game exists, and I believe that only, you know, in ex-Yugoslavia, but it is not true. So I want to say with this novel that life is always open, you know, even if you want to close something, actually you open something new. And there are victims, but also there is a kind of hope in the life. Because of that, it is called a spare life.
That's right. Okay, this is your first book translated into Greek. So how does that make you feel, and how do you see the bond between the two countries?
Yes, I'm very, very happy and very grateful to Vahikon and to the translator who translated. Yes, it is really, I mean, it is true that it was translated from English, but now hopefully the new novel was translated from Macedonian to Greek, yes, and it is going to be published also by Vahikon, that I am very happy and grateful. Yes, for me it is very important, this translation. Why? Because so far I have my books have been translated into 17 languages, but some of my books are translated in different languages. So it is this number of 17. It is not the real number. It's probably 25 or something translated books, you know. And this is my first book translated in Greek. I always say that I always wanted my books to be translated in Greek, Albanian, and Bulgarian.
Why?
Because it was most difficult to my books to be translated in these languages because of this, I don't know, relationships between our countries, problems, political, prejudices, stereotypes, and so on. So when I got my first book in Albanian, I was really very, very happy because in North Macedonia there is a big minority of Albanians, and we live, actually, me not, because I live in Slovenia, but my people live very parallel with the Albanian citizens in North Macedonia, like two nations who live in one space, and they don't know each other and they don't touch each other and so on. So for me it was very big success when I was translated in Albanian. In Bulgarian, so far, I have already 5 books translated. So for me, it's very, very big joy when I go to Bulgaria and speak about my books. And nobody makes me a problem about the language or so on. I have a translator in Bulgarian who always asks questions and so on. So it is now very good relationships between me and him, but not between our countries. And in Greece, I never thought I would be translated because we had so big problem political with the name of the country. So when we made this agreement and changed the name to North Macedonia, and this occasion appeared to be translated to Greek, I was very, very happy. But I must recognize that the first Greek translation ever I got from a Palestinian who lives in Greece, Jazra Khaled, who is actually editor of Teflon magazine. We met in Berlin for a reading, and he immediately wanted my poetry, and he made a big, big cycle of my poems in Teflon. My poetry was translated. So actually, I was very grateful to him that he opened a door for my poetry to Greece. But of course, it is different when you have a book in a language that you really appreciate. And, I mean, everything, I studied comparative literature. So all my education is based on ancient Greece, on mythology, on philosophy, on everything. So it was pity, for me, not to be translated in a language that is actually continuing the tradition of ancient Greek.
Thank you very much. I'd like you to talk a bit more now about the new book coming out in a few months. It has been translated. The Greek title will be Προσωπικός αριθμός ταυτοποίησης. Would you like to tell us a bit about the story?
Yes. The novel, actually, Personal Identity Number, in Macedonian Единствен матичен брой, is a story very connected with Greek, with Greece in a way, even if it is connected with Cyprus, but it is about Nikos, who is Greek from Cyprus, who comes to Yugoslavia, to Skopje, to North Macedonia in 74, when the invasion happened to Cyprus, with Milka, who is Macedonian and who at that time was a season worker at Famagusta Hotel. So when the invasion happened, they flew actually to Skopje and they lived there. But Nikos was in a kind unprepared to this, He just came with her, but he was not very sure. He loves her, he wants to be with her, he wants to stay in Skopje and so on. So he lost all connection with his primary family in Cyprus and never again saw them. And in Skopje, he was quite unhappy man. He has family, but they are very constrained, alienated in the family. And Katerina, the daughter of Nikos, actually grew up with this attitude that she has a father who is from Cyprus. She speaks with him in Macedonian. He never speaks Greek with anybody because he doesn't have any connections anymore with nobody. Sometimes he listened to Michalis Violaris, very popular at that time in Cyprus. And she wants actually to search for her identity also, and especially for his identity. So she studied sociology. She went to Bristol for a gathering of Cypriot refugees. She met Hasan, who is Turkish from Varosha. She went to Famagusta and Varosha to research also there. She went to Limassol. She met her grandmother in Limassol, where she left after the invasion. And so also the novel is actually a kind of a search of the identity of the daughter of Nikos, who is Katerina. But half of the novel is connected with a very popular Macedonian idiom that I don't know how is going to be, how was translated to Greek, but it is in a way, I mean, a man needs to find a wasteland. So to go somewhere and to liberate himself of the problems of everything. So I make a kind of dystopian place of this wasteland that ironically at the end of the novel becomes a kind of startup, you know, because now we live all in very capitalist neoliberal society, and everything is seen through money. So even if this dystopian space also it is seen through money, and it became a kind of anti-utopia, anti-commune, anti-colony. We all know about colonies with, I don't know, happy people who stay together, live together, cook together, love each other, and so on. And they really realize that they want this kind of life. And my dystopia is totally opposite of them. There people go because they want to be alone. They want to be individualist. They want to stay alone. They don't want to have children. They don't want to have friends, families, and so on. So very radical in a way. But readers will see that the story is very connected. These two parts of the novel are very connected each other with, and it is a kind of novel also for our world. It is not a novel about 74, but it is a novel about our world and how we live now in this very apocalyptic, in a way, world.
It sounds really interesting. Let's hope we can read it in Greek in a few months. So thank you very much. Raquel, I'll say some things about you in Greek first for the audience. Η Ρακέλ Μαρτίνεθ Γκόμεθ γεννήθηκε το 1973 στη Λαμάντσα της Ισπανίας. Είναι κάτοχος διδακτορικού στις διεθνείς σχέσεις και μεταπτυχιακού διπλώματος στη νεότερη και σύγχρονη λογοτεχνία, κουλτούρα και σκέψη. Ειδικεύεται στο πεδίο της βιώσιμης ανάπτυξης και των ανθρωπίνων δικαιωμάτων και έχει διδάξει σε πανεπιστήμια στην Ισπανία, το Μεξικό, την Ουρουγουάη και το Εκουαδόρ. Έχει εκδώσει 7 μυθιστορήματα και για το συγκεκριμένο που θα μιλήσουμε σήμερα, τις σκιές του μονόκερου, έχει λάβει το Βραβείο Λογοτεχνίας της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης. Έχει μεταφραστεί σε 10 γλώσσες. Είναι το πρώτο βιβλίο της που κυκλοφορεί στα ελληνικά. Στο μυθιστόρημά της αφηγείται την ιστορία μιας δημοσιογράφου από την Αργεντινή, η οποία μετά από μια τραυματική εμπειρία πηγαίνει στη Μαδρίτη με την ελπίδα να γυρίσει σελίδα στη ζωή της. Εκεί βρίσκει δουλειά σε ένα μπαρ με το όνομα Μονόκερος και γνωρίζει έναν νεαρό Μεξικανό που αποζητά και αυτός καταφύγιο μακριά από την πατρίδα του. Οι δυο τους θα προσπαθήσουν να κλείσουν τις παλιές πληγές και να αναγεννηθούν. So, first of all, I'd like to welcome to Greece. I'd like to ask you what inspired you to write Shadows of the Unicorn, and what does the unicorn symbolize in your novel?
Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you and Haristopoli to the Bakhikon publisher. Here, a big team on Estoras, Stratos, Vicky, of course. I want also to thank my translator in Greek, Tina Tertioti, and Miguel, who is supporting Tina in everything. And of course, I would like also to thank to the book fair and Lydia, because these days I am learning a lot also with Makis, and is another nominated Greek person for this year. for the prize, the European Union Prize for Literature, and I am learning a lot about that thing that you are talking about, no? More about the relation between North Macedonia and Grecia, and now I will go to Bulgaria and other festivals, so I am learning a lot about this territory, and for me it's a privilege. And a little bit of Greek, but I need to improve a lot. So what inspired me? So there is a time that in this novel, in Shadows of Unicorn, that I wrote 22 years ago, what inspired me is that there is a time that we inherit a lot of things. So we need to find our own path. And there is a director, I love a sentence. There is an Argentinian director, Fernando Birri, that say, we can do to change what we are. So, and it's in this moment when I wrote the novel, I took the story of two migrants who arrived in Madrid, one woman from the north, actually from Buenos Aires, but she lives in the northeast of Argentina, in Misiones. That there is a place with red hair, and also about a Mexican guy who came from Coahuila, that is in the middle of the north of Mexico, the state of Coahuila. So they arrive in Madrid and they are searching for a new meaning because their past is a past very tumultuous, and they have this kind of path, and they think that it's possible to start from scratch, but they then realize that it's not so easy. And I share with a lot with Lydia this passion to literature that is linked with social and political issues. So, for example, in the novel, the past of this Argentinian woman is linked with the crisis of 2000. So you are Greek, you know about crisis, as well as Argentinian people, no, and also Spanish people. So, and it's linked with this 2000 crisis, and I was there at that time, so I witnessed this kind of tumultuous society, and at that time, so I learned a lot as well. And the same for the guy from Mexico. Then the story is linked with the violence in the north of Mexico. So there is as in all my works, there is a bridge between Europe and Latin America, because I consider that it's part of my identity. I am from La Mancha, but I don't know if you know that Cervantes, Miguel de Cervantes, the very well-known Spanish writer, one of his dreams was to go to live to Guatemala, to Latin America, never get it. So for me, it's like, I don't know. And also because I have, my family is also related with migration. My great-grandfather, parents, emigrate to Buenos Aires at the beginning of the 20th century. So it's a mix of things, but the novel is more this kind like yours, a search of identity, but also linked with social and political issues.
Mm-hmm. And what about the unicorn? Does it symbolize something?
Yes. It symbolizes the duality between, as I said, no, what we are and what really want to become. So it's the mix between desire and reality, no? So it's something, and also I playing with this symbolize because there is a bar that is called the Unicorn, mm-hmm. that is in the center of Madrid, in the Barrio de las Letras, that is the more literary neighborhood in Madrid, because was buried Cervantes, for example, but also Lope de Vega or Calderón de la Barca, and it's very close to the Plaza de Santa Ana. So this is when they arrive, when they are working temporarily in this bar. So the bar symbolizes this unicorn, and the bar symbolizes the possibility of transformation, no, and something like that.
Okay, thank you. So the protagonists, Claudia and Edgar, are portrayed as individuals seeking healing and transformation. What is it that inspired you to delve into themes of trauma and rebirth in this story? And how does your personal background influence these themes explored in the book?
Yes, as I said, I was young, so I suppose I was there. I was trying to do my own transformation, but at the same time, the thing that I love in a novel is these trips, no, geographical trips that influenced me a lot, because I stay in 2 months in Misiones in the university. Mm-hmm. So for me was a possibility to meet, for example, with the literature in this part of the North Argentina. So, and also was an opportunity to know more about culture, of course, and that it's very European one, but of migration, but also there are the Guarani area. This is the area of the Guarani population as well. It's close to Paraguay. So I love this street, and also Mexico, and it's my big passion in practically all my novels. Mexico is present because I live there only 2 years, but I travel a lot. Every year I try to go and to learn. It's an amazing country, such as is Argentina as well. So probably the thing more linked with my own story is the geographical trip. No, it's Madrid. That it is. I was born in Albacete, but Madrid. Really, I studied in Madrid. I am living now in the Sierra de Guadarrama, the Madrid mountain. So Madrid is part of my cities. It's one of, perhaps, it's the most important city for me, but also with my other identity. That is, I lived 10 years in Latin America. And also in Argentina is linked with my family background, so it's everything there. So this is the more autobiographical thing.
Okay, that's nice. What about trauma? Are we all traumatized at some point?
Trauma is present in life,
Everyone's
no?
life.
I think so, no? And
so you want to give the hope for transformation and rebirth?
Yes. I don't think it's based in my own trauma. But a writer is always listening stories, no? And probably it's a mix of stories that I have heard, and I want to empathize with that stories. Empathize with that stories.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So this is also your first book translated into Greek, and there is another one coming. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. How do you feel about this translation and the bond between the two countries, and what do you hope Greek readers get out of the first book?
Okay, I have to say that for me, the translation in Greek, for me, is one of the most important ones, because I consider that my own language and my own culture is linked with the ancient Greek civilization. So I don't know. I can talk about Western identity, but I think in Western identity we have a plurality as well. No, we are very diverse as well. So, but yes, it's part of my, as I say, my language, my culture, and so it's important to me. And I have to say also that when I received probably the first literary prize that I received in the high school, with the voucher that the high school gave to me, I went to buy 3 books. One was the Iliad that I didn't have at home, the Odyssey, and the other was a book about Greek mythology by Robert Graves. This is, and the other question about how I want to reach the Greek readers, everything. So, for example, in that one that is coming.
We'll talk about it.
Okay,
yeah.
The archaeology of goodbye. So the Mass of the Mayan King. We're going to talk now about the title. So for example, I would like that they feel the same passion for the Mayan world than the protagonists feel in the novel, and also now it's contagious. Now I am very, very interested in this world, and I continue writing. The novel that now currently I'm writing is also related with the Mayan world.
So tell us a bit more about the new book coming out. It's being translated as we speak. So the Spanish title is actually The Mask of the Mayan King, but you want the Greek title to be The Archaeology of?
So
Why that
here.
difference?
So I have to say that my title, and the title that my Greek translator loves, is An Archaeology of Goodbyes, but in Spanish is Arqueología del Adiós. It's a little bit changed in English and in Spanish, because in Spanish I use the singular, and in English it's much better to use the plural. No, an archaeology of goodbyes, plural in goodbyes, no, but singular in the archaeology. And but when I published this book with one of the two biggest groups in Spanish publisher, that is Planeta, but it was published in Mexico. And in Mexico, the Mayan world is important, and I don't know if for Greek reader will be the same. And also, so they suggest me to change the title, but I say no. And then I realized that it wasn't a suggestion. It was a okay, I put in a balance and I say, listen, the distribution will be very good. So for me, it's very important to reach with this story that put in value not just the Mayan civilization in ancient civilization, but also currently the Mayan territories and this story of resistance, no, against neoliberalism and for example, what happened in 1994 with the Zapatist uprising, and how now they are trying to don't open their territories to the tourism, because a Mayan woman don't want to clean the the butter of a German tourist. So they are resistant that, no, and this is I admire a lot this kind of resistance. So about the title, I have to say that to finish that probably in Greek I will be very, very, very happy if in Greek they maintain the title of the author.
Okay, the publisher is here, your translator is here, so we'll see about that. That is not a suggestion.
It's not a suggestion, but you are not. Didn't decide yet. You have to decide. Okay. Okay, an archaeology of goodbyes. Yes, it's definitely. And we think, the translator and me, that this is the country of the archaeologists. This is archaeologists is very important for this country. So, and there is, for example, things that are very related between this kind of country with a lot of culture and where the archaeology is central in the current world. That is for example, you fight for our heritage. You are asking London for UK for our treasure, and Mexico was the same. There were a lot of spoliation of the heritage. So, and the main character of this novel, Alberto Rudlulier, tried to respect the law, because the law was approved in Mexico at that time in the 30s, and try to take care of all the culture, Mayan culture in general, not just archaeological issues. And more than then, it was very worried about the social situation and what the Mexican state was doing with this territory.
Do you want to tell us something more about the new book, about the plot and everything?
Yes, of course. Yes, because I consider that the story about this man, Alberto Rudlulier, even today, is one of the more important archaeologists for the Mayan area. So he was the first that discovered that in a pyramid, Mayan pyramid, were a tomb. So it was the first time in the 1952 he discovered the tomb of Pacal, the king Pacal, Pacal el Grande, Pacal the Big, that even today is the most important Mayan tomb in a pyramid. So he was born in Paris, but the background was the a Cuban family who has to leave Cuba for the Spanish colonia and immigrate into Paris. So he raised in Paris. Then when he was 70 years old, decided to go to Cuba. And in Cuba, fights against the Machado dictatorship. That was a dictatorship in the 20s and at the beginning of the 30s. He was involved in politics, and he has to exile to Mexico. I was in Mexico when he decided to naturalize as a Mexican, so from there was Mexican. But the mother language was French. So, but then at that time, the Mayan world was very, very unknown. For example, the Aztecas, Mexicas, Toltecas, Mixtecas were culture more, they know more about this culture at that time. And for this reason, he decided to start his work as archaeologist after a study in the Mexican institution who created the president Lázaro Cárdenas, that was the most important president in Mexico in the 20s. So he created this institution for studying anthropology and archaeology. He became one of the first Mexican archaeologists, even if he was born in Paris. And I love this kind of mix of nationalities because borders are artificial. So he little by little wrote a lot of books about the Mayan world. And when I found the story, because even if I had heard about it, one day in Lisbon, Lisbon is looking to America, no? In Lisbon, I met the youngest son of this archaeologist, and he started to cry when he started to tell the story about the father. So I don't want to tell more, but I only want to say that my literary question wasn't who was this man, who was the archaeologist, who was Alberto Ruth. No, the literary question was linked with the emotion, was linked with why this man, this old man, elegant, handsome, everything, cry when he talked about his father. And then you have to read the novel because you have to discover it.
That's nice. Okay. Thank you both very much. Are there any questions? Κάποια ερώτηση, κάποιο σχόλιο? Okay. Σας ευχαριστούμε όλους πάρα πολύ που ήσασταν εδώ. Thank you to both of you. Οι συγγραφείς μας θα υπογράψουν αντίτυπα των βιβλίων τους ακριβώς από κάτω στο stand των εκδόσεων Βακχικών, στο 8990. Σας ευχαριστούμε πολύ για την παρουσία σας.